so before we begin with actual questions, I want to go over two different things that are really helpful for any test that you take. One of them is back solving, and the other one is going to be called just the steps. So the steps are going to be for any math knowledge, arithmetic, reasoning, and you can translate this into word knowledge and paragraph comprehension and those things, but the steps are very, very important. You're going to want to write these down so that you can look back at them every single time that you approach a question. This is going to be what stops you from freezing when you see a question you don't know how to answer. So if you've ever taken a test and you're like, shoot, I don't know what to do, and you just freeze and you sit there and kind of lose your mind a little bit, that's not very helpful. Like if you've been there, you know that during that time you're not getting through the test, you're just kind of beating yourself up. Instead of doing that, what we want to do is we want to have a 4-step system that will make sure that you continue to go through these steps. That way you're never caught like a deer in the headlights, frozen. So steps. All right, the first step is going to be analyze the question. So this could be things like looking for keywords, analyzing what it's asking for, looking at all the information. So just looking at all the information. So this is focused on the info. So you're looking at all of the information they give you. Step number 2, this is arguably the most important step. Step number 2 is going to be focused on the question. So I always tell my students, ID the question, identify it, figure out exactly what it's asking for. If you see a question and it's got all this information about kilometers and yards and, popsicles, you need to figure out exactly what it's asking. So usually it's at the end, but not always. Usually it's gonna be something like, what is blah, right? So figure out exactly what the question is. Here I'm gonna put a little question mark. If you can figure out what information you're given and what the question's actually asking you, you're already most of the way there. These 2 steps are the biggest hurdles that most students have. The next 2 steps are a little more natural. So step 3 is going to be solve strategically. And step 4 is going to be verify. Verify, confirm. This last step is what I recommend to look at right before you move on to the next question. So you want to solve it strategically, meaning figure out what it's asking you and figure out what information you're given and then figure out how to get there, right? That's the strategic solving part. And that's going to come with practice, learning about averages, learning about fractions. You learn about those things and now you can solve these questions strategically. But you can't do that if you don't know what it's asking you, and you certainly can't do that if you don't have all the information from the question. So these 2 steps, definitely super important. Always be looking for the information and then figuring out the question. Well, this is going to be for my people who are really good with their people skills. If you've ever talked to someone and you know that they're trying to get to a question, but they're not really sure how to get there, they're like beating around the bush, this is going to be like, that's the kind of skill you're looking for. You want to figure out exactly what they're trying to get to. What is the goal of this question? Solving strategically and verifying, those are just some steps that you want to do once you know what information you have and what the question is looking for. As far as identifying question, there's some keywords, there's some different things in the checklist that I give out for free, but you want to figure out exactly what it's looking for, solve it strategically, and then verify. Before you click next, just be like, does this make sense? Kind of one last, they call it the sniff test in the Army, like, does it pass the sniff test? Does it smell like crap, right? Does it smell true or does it smell like crap? And so that's gonna be that verify step. These 4 steps are gonna be what I use for every single question. Every single question I do, math knowledge, arithmetic, reasoning, even word knowledge and paragraph comprehension, I always come back to these 4 steps. I use them all the time. So hopefully you can use them too, and they'll help you a lot on your tests. All right.